Today, we're going to take a closer look at Nvidia, some new updates that have appeared in the past week or so. A lot of different things. We're going to take a closer look at some of their software solutions, some of their hardware solutions. Also, the company was at two conferences, and I'm going to kind of showcase some of the highlights that I believe investors should know. Let's take a closer look in today's episode. We can see as I am recording, it is almost the end of the trading week. Nvidia is sitting at $387, up roughly 0.69%. Year to date, the stock has done amazing, up 170%, sitting at a market cap of roughly $957 billion. Nvidia is my number one position in my portfolio. Number two is AMD. And right now, it's definitely a pretty interesting time in the market. I'm personally not buying Nvidia at this moment, but that's because it's already such a big position in my portfolio. But it's definitely, I believe, a company that in the long term of things will be a bigger company. In the short term, though, I do believe there's going to be better buying opportunity. That is just my overall opinion, and I could be 100% wrong there. So the first kind of update I want to take a closer look at is this research, this paper by John Petty Research. They kind of take a closer look at the add-in board market, and this is pretty much the discrete GPUs that we all know and love as gamers, as consumers. For example, the Nvidia's RTX 4070, 4080, and all those lines. This is what this report is going to talk about and how it's looking in quarter one of 2023. So this came out in June 7th, so roughly 2 days ago. And according to the new research, unfortunately, the unit shipments of this kind of discrete boards is down roughly 12.6% quarter over quarter and roughly 38.2% on a year over year basis for quarter one of 2023. Obviously, we are seeing kind of one of the weakest PC markets ever, and that's obviously going to impact the discrete GPUs. They do kind of showcase the market share, and there are some interesting points here, right? So right off the bat, Nvidia continues to be the dominant player here, 84% market share. Number two comes in at AMD with 12% market share, and to my surprise, Intel comes in at number three with 4%. This report does mention that Intel entered the kind of discrete market in quarter three of 2022 with the Arc A770 and the A750. So I wasn't surprised with Intel kind of entering the market, right? You guys know we have discussed that in the past. What I was surprised is how big of a market share, 4%. It's already 1/3 the size of AMD's market share, right? So that's interesting. Obviously, like I mentioned, we are in this really bad PC market time where maybe a lot of people are not purchasing boards at the moment. So it is going to be interesting to see how maybe this might shift later this year when maybe the PC market starts to pick back up. But I did think that was pretty interesting. Based on this report, they do mention that they expect quarter three to be when kind of when we start to see a pickup back in this market. Unfortunately, quarter two is traditionally a down quarter, and they don't expect this year to be different. Quarter three, we start to see big stores start to prepare for the holidays, right? And kind of the Black Friday and all these other types of sales. So they start to build up maybe some inventory for the kind of movement of sales during the kind of holiday season. So that's why we normally see quarter three to be a little bit more uptick. We'll take a closer look later on. Now, what I want to take a closer look at is some kind of updates the company has showcased of maybe how AI is being used right now. And I think these next updates are going to be very important for NVIDIA investors because it gives us kind of the possibility or kind of see the viewpoint of where this kind of AI market can go into. So the first one we're going to take a look at is on June 7th of 2023, NYU and NVIDIA collaborate on large language models to predict patient readmission. They call this large language model NYU Tron, and it's an AI model featured today in Nature, and it is deployed at NYU Langone Health. But before we take a closer look at this, if you guys are enjoying the episode so far, make sure to hit the thumbs up, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and let me know in the comments below what are your thoughts on NVIDIA right now. I'm also trying to hit 30,000 subs by the end of the year, so I would definitely appreciate if you guys can hit that subscribe button. Also, check out, if you want to learn more about the semiconductor market, check out my membership. Just hit join. And finally,
I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for their subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
So, if we take a closer look at this large language model, first let's try to understand the problem it's trying to fix. So, getting discharged from the hospital is a major milestone for patients, but sometimes it's not the end of their road to recovery. Nearly 15% of hospital patients in the United States are readmitted within 30 days of their initial discharge, which is often associated with worse outcome and higher costs for both the patients and the hospitals. So we're going to see how this problem kind of solves certain issues, also certain kind of monetary incentives. But the researchers at NYU Langone Health, the academic medical center of New York University, have collaborated with Nvidia experts to develop a large language model that predicts a patient's risk of 30-day readmission as well as other clinical outcomes. The model has so far been applied to more than 50,000 patients discharged in NYU's healthcare system, where it shares predictions of readmission risk with physicians via email notifications. And now let's try to understand why this is important and why maybe more hospitals may start to kind of use some form of AI or large language model to help them out. The US government tracks 30-day readmission rate as an indicator of quality of care hospitals are providing. So obviously if that readmission is really high, it probably means the quality of care of that hospital is bad to some extent. So medical institutions with high rates are fined. So obviously it's already a monetary incentives for hospitals to make sure there's no readmission rates, and doing things like preemptive maintenance like this to some extent can help that out. They do mention that there have been computational models in the past to predict readmissions since the 1980s. So that kind of having some form of predictive patient readmissions is not new. But they have trained their LLM on the unstructured data of electronic health records to see if it could recapture insight that people haven't considered before. So this kind of AI is using a whole different perspective to kind of work on this predictive patient readmission rate. NYU Tron was trained on 10 years of health records from NYU Langone Health and more than 4 billion words of clinical notes representing nearly 400,000 patients. They do mention that NYU Tron is an LLM with hundreds of millions of parameters trained using the Nvidia NeMo Megatron framework on a large cluster of Nvidia A100 Tensor Core GPUs. So right off the bat, we can see two things. One, they are using Nvidia software solutions and they're using Nvidia's hardware solutions. So we can see how Nvidia has become such a main player here in the AI space. And now they also talked about how not all hospitals have the resources to train a large language models like NYU, right? From scratch in-house, but they can adopt a pre-trained model like NYU Tron and then fine-tune it with small sample of local data using GPUs in the cloud. So here it even kind of talks a little bit of how maybe you might be a small hospital. Maybe you don't have the kind of the fundings that maybe NYU has in their kind of health system or their health department. So you don't have to kind of go out there and train your own large language model. You can use pre-trained models and then kind of not even buy your own servers or buy any kind of crazy computational power. You can just rent it out via a cloud market and kind of save both on infrastructure and the training of products. So we can see how kind of AI can definitely hit different markets and how Nvidia is both in the forefront of software, which kind of deals with the inference and the training, and also the hardware, which deals with that and so much more. The next one I want to take a closer look at is NVIDIA, kind of how a fish farming startup is using AI to make aquaculture more efficient and sustainable. So GoSmart, a member of the NVIDIA Metropolis and Inception program, helps farmers better manage fish feed with autonomous systems powered by the Nvidia Jensen platform for Edge AI. So there's not too much cool information here, in my opinion, that we should kind of really look at. The only thing that I want investors to know is kind of showcase this kind of Nvidia Jensen platform, which is for Edge AI. When you need to have AI do something trading, not go to the cloud and do it in locally, right? So they do kind of talk about this Nvidia Jensen. For those not familiar, right, Nvidia has a huge amount of hardware and software solutions for the robotics, right? And I do believe the robotics market is going to be very, very strong in the future. I do believe this is going to be a huge growth opportunity for this company. So Nvidia Jensen, I just wanted to showcase the power of it and how certain startups are using their products already. So this is a huge growth opportunity. In my opinion, it's one that many do not talk about. Next, we're going to take a closer look at a big giant, Microsoft. So there was a report on June 5th that Microsoft Bing speeds ad delivery with NVIDIA Triton, inference software which enable a shift to NVIDIA A100 Tensor Core GPUs, delivering 7 times throughput for the search giant. So obviously, Bing needs to personalize ads to users of Microsoft Bing, and they're using NVIDIA Triton inference server and running on NVIDIA A100 Tensor Core GPUs to kind of boost and reduce the cost of kind of this ad solution. So again, right off the bat, we can see software and hardware solution from NVIDIA, not powering a random startup, right? This time they're using it for a big tech player like Microsoft. So continue to see some bullish trends here on their AI market. The final one came out on June 1st of 2023. We did see NVIDIA announce Mira Angelo, which is a new way to reconstruct 3D scenes. Mira Angelo is a new AI model by NVIDIA researchers for 3D reconstruction using neural networks. And it turns 2D clips into 3D structures, generating lifelike virtual replicas of buildings, sculptures, and other real world objects. And this is, in my opinion, going to be a game changer. And they talk about it for creative professionals. For example, things like art, video game development, robotics, and industrial digital twins. It's going to save so much time. Imagine you're trying to develop a digital twin of your factory, but you're going to have to create models of all these different equipments that you have, of this kind of work area that you have, and that takes a lot and a lot of time. With this kind of software solution that kind of NVIDIA, this AI model that NVIDIA has released, with the phone, you're going to be able to film and kind of create the baseline. Maybe it might not be perfect, but it will help accelerate that creation of kind of that AI factory, of that digital twin, right? And it can be used in numerous things like video games, like content creation. So I think this is pretty interesting, and it continues to show how NVIDIA continues to push its way into the AI space. So we have two kind of conferences that NVIDIA did showcase, and I just want to talk about some of the highlights from these conferences. The first one I'm going to take a closer look at was on June 7th, and NVIDIA Corporation was at Rosenblatt Technology Summit. This was more of a talk about CUDA and kind of some of the acceleration software that they have. I personally didn't find too much helpful information for investors here, but definitely if you want to check it out, just kind of check out their, like I mentioned, it was a conference on June 7th. The second one, the one I did enjoy, was on June 6th, and this was NVIDIA Corp at Bank of America Global Technology Conference. And on a later episode, or later today, I might release an AMD episode, or early tomorrow. AMD was also on this conference. NVIDIA talked more about the gaming side. AMD did talk about the data center side. So you guys are going to want to stay tuned for that episode. Make sure to check that out. So here in this conference, they talk, like I mentioned, they're really talking about the gaming market. They say if you look back from 2019 to 2020, despite all these kind of major tailwinds affecting the current gaming market, they gained roughly 100 million gamers during that time. And they expect to see continued growth as more people come into gaming. They also mentioned that they are seeing a huge growth opportunity right now in the gaming market. Obviously, we are in this weak PC space, but one thing that they are seeing is that gamers and creators that they can see that are upgrading their PCs, once they have an NVIDIA GPU, they tend to always upgrade to a higher class of GPU. So it's such a great thing to see a loyal membership base, and we saw NVIDIA's kind of market share in the kind of discrete market was over 80%. So they say typically those loyal customers, they start off maybe with the lower tier level, maybe the 3060, maybe the 3070. But when they upgrade, or 4060 or 4070, whichever, the 60 or the 70 series, but when they upgrade, they always tend to upgrade to a higher class, which tends to have a higher average selling price as well. And that tends to be kind of something that has happened to the past. And they're super excited, especially because right now, only 44% of GeForce installed base is on RTX. So RTX is the 2000 series, the 3000 series, and I believe the 4000 series. So still 56% are still in the 1000 or below series. So they do mention that they believe there's a huge growth opportunity here in Nvidia for their gaming market. Outside of that, in the consumer space, they are also seeing kind of a nice amount of AI apps coming into the consumer computer, and Nvidia and Microsoft announced a collaboration to accelerate all AI models coming to Windows on Nvidia GPUs. And this makes perfect sense, right? Nvidia GPUs are perfect for AI acceleration, and Microsoft and Nvidia are teaming up to do that. They also earlier introduced their first platform for gaming, which is Ace for Games. And this is going to allow kind of the creation of using AI and generative AI to create some form of dialogue in game without really having the developer create much, except kind of showcasing a little bit of the background of the game. They also talked about how they're kind of using safe rails, like we've talked in the past, to make sure in these kind of generative AI that the character inside the game will only talk about history or lore of the game, but won't talk about anything happening, like, for example, presidential elections or anything that might be outside a game. And they're using NVIDIA software to create those guardrails. NVIDIA does mention that, hey, one of the main reasons they're able to accelerate so much in gaming is because they're also accelerating a lot in the data centers. For example, things like large language model, generative AI is being worked on the data center side with their software solutions like Riva, like Mimo, and all the other products, which really help NVIDIA continue to develop and be a strong player in the gaming market. Another question that was asked is, hey, NVIDIA, how do you see the short-term market here in the gaming space, especially as there are a lot of concerns about consumer spending and maybe not a rebound happening as fast as previously expected? So NVIDIA kind of responded that they expect the year to play off with a seasonally larger second half. Pretty much what we've been hearing, right? First half might still be weak, but second half, they do expect more and more growth. The final question I want to discuss is there was the analyst was like, hey, NVIDIA, you tend to have a very strong market share of roughly 80%, like we saw earlier from the research, but your competitors are also bringing out a number of new products, and they also can buy the same amount of transistors from the same foundries. You both work with TSMC. So what gives you the confidence that you can maintain this very high premium even though you guys are all in the same playing field? And NVIDIA kind of showcased that, hey, their biggest strength right now is the software market. So even though everybody can, in theory, have the same amount of chips and the same amount of transistors, what really differentiates NVIDIA is their drivers. With, for example, every time a new game comes out or a major game comes out, they release a new drivers, and their new drivers aren't really fixing bugs because of stability or compatibility issues. It's more of just improving performance of the new games. And this is not something you see a lot with maybe some of their competitors. Usually their competitors are rushing to release drivers to fix issues. NVIDIA says, yes, that happens to us, but mainly we release drivers to kind of improve our performance. And that's going to be one of the biggest reasons or consumers continue to choose NVIDIA over the competitors. So I know today's episode was a little bit longer than expected, but I wanted to showcase, I know you guys enjoy this information. I wanted to kind of thank you guys for all the support, and I want to make sure that I'm bringing the most value that I can to you guys for viewing this video. So take care, have a good day, and see you next time.